Morning, welcome all. It's the first Techfast session I've done anyway, so early start, but yeah, great to have you here. So this morning we're going to talk about introduction to SAFe, the Scaled Agile Framework. Just a show of hands really, has anyone heard of SAFe here? Excellent, that's good. Has anyone operated in SAFe before? Apart from Charlie? Yeah, great, Jared, yeah, excellent, great, good. So the sort of intent this morning is really to give you a very quick, high-level, 50,000-foot overview of what SAFe is. There's multiple courses on each part of the actual framework itself, so we're not going to go into any sort of level of massive detail. Perhaps have a conversation afterwards if you've got any specific questions based on your role in terms of how it could apply going forward. So the first thing is really to kind of give you, what is SAFe and why, kind of present that. Bit more about the walk through the framework and the key principles, an overview of that. And one of the ceremonies is quite key to SAFe overall, kind of hangs it all together is a project increment planning, which is the PR planning session. So I'll give you again a very quick overview of that, and we'll have an opportunity at the end to go through any questions that you might have as well. As we've got such a short group, feel free to ask any questions as we go along. Yeah, so happy to answer questions as we progress through the deck. Okay, how are we feeling today? Right, just a very quick show of hands. So if you feel like a 1, just do 1, it's fine. If you feel like a 2, that's cool, or the other way around. And if you feel like a 3, yeah. So after 2's cool, okay. 3 there. I think I'm a bit 2 and 3 today as well. Cool, excellent. So a bit about myself then. So I'm with BGSS at the moment. I've been with BGSS for about 3.5 years. I started my career mainly in the automotive sector with Daimler Chrysler. Did a bit of work in financial services with Egg, which is like one of the I would say the fintech at the time, based in a really exotic city called Derby. You might have heard of it, called Derby. And then I did a bit of work with Circo and Capita, mainly in the public sector space. Lots of work with financial services, again with HSBC, and now I'm here with BGSS. A lot of my SAFe sort of initiation around the agility and ways of working happened mainly around with HSBC. So lots of work around adopting the framework, getting familiar, working with different teams and disparate teams and global teams happen really mainly in the financial services sector at HSBC. So before we start then, what do you think SAFe is? The ideas? Yeah, in the simplest forms. Anyone else? Any thoughts?
Oh,
go on, Jared, go on.
just think the principle of that channel, just how do you scale that in?
Yeah, it's probably not a bad shout. So how we keep, basically scale it out to multiple teams. Anybody else? No?
I was only going to say opinionated agile.
It's all right. It's still a valid thought and opinion. So let's look at some definitions then. So the SAFe website said it's the most trusted system for business agility, right? Slightly biased, I think, but anyway. So let's have a look at some other sort of definitions. So the other one is the Scaled Agile Framework is a set of organizational flow and patterns for implementing agile practices and enterprise at scale. So I think I quite like that one from Ataslian. It kind of sits more well with me, and it really does talk about more the sort of enterprise scale is the key word there, right? It's basically scaling out what is in the purest sense, a small agile team doing lots of great stuff and delivering great business value is how then we then scale that and multiply that. In essence, that's pretty much what it is. But to really simplify it further, it's pretty much a proven concept of feedback from practitioner organizations. So what SAFe is saying is SAFe sees this as a product in its purest form as well. So what I like about the Scaled Agile is they're continually evolving this, right? So talk to practitioners all the time. They've got this like user groups and touch points with people that are sort of evangelizing, practicing, adopting, and doing some great things in different contexts and organizations. Is they're taking all that on board, and as the world is evolving, they're also evolving their offering as it basically goes on. And a really good example of this was I remember during COVID when really PI planning as a ceremony or so we say an event is actually done best online. Best in practice, right? In person, but they actually gave lots of kind of guidance and shared loads of sort of good practices of how to do it online and how to do it in a hybrid model. So that told me that actually they're very reactive, in Agile in its truest sense, to how the markets were changing at that moment in time. And they were very fast at basically providing that as well. I was just starting a new gig at the time with the organization. We thought, wow, like, how are we going to do this with 150 people? And we're now going to do PR planning. How's this going to play out, right? It's the first time these teams are meeting together as well. But, I went to the Scaled Agile website and they were really sort of prescriptive and lots of great guidance around how to actually carry it out. So that was really key. And it's really a framework based on, like it says, based on practice and underlying thought leadership. So lots of, again, experience, knowledge, concepts kind of go into this. It's not just somebody thinking, actually, this is a great idea. It's tried and tested in so many different ways. And really, a lot of the times people think, well, that's great. I can just deploy this here into different place. Well, not quite. It's not a cookie cutter approach, right? You've probably done this in one place. And every time I've done it in different places, it's all felt very different. But in essence, we're still driving the same thing and delivering the same thing. And in my words, I think it's just a massive toolbox. You don't have to adopt everything in that framework, and I'll show you why. But in essence, you've got to use the tools that are best for you at that moment in time, or what's going to work well for you. So there are 4 different configurations of SAFe. It's got the full configuration, a large solution, a portfolio, and essential. And it pretty much depends on, what the context of what you're looking to basically operate in. I would say at the minimal level, essential is probably great. Yeah, and it's not progressive either. So you don't have to start with essential, then go portfolio, and then you go full. Nothing like that at all. So you do what's kind of best, in terms of what you're looking to deliver. So if we look at SAFe, the big pictures, I call it, that's basically full SAFe. So you've got a number of core competencies that you see on the left and at the bottom in circles. You basically got the 3 main components there. So essential SAFe is at the bottom. Yeah. So we'll look at this here. You've got your people here on the left. These are all the people that are involved in the different stages. This is the essential SAFe aspect of it. And within essential SAFe, then you've got your agile release train, which I'll come to in a second. But you've also got these different other components, and this is why I call it the toolbox. Is you've got Scrum, which I think most of you have probably heard of. You've got your Kanban. You can use Kanban within this, which is basically there. So you've got your Kanban teams, and you've got your different team backlogs. Quality assurance is a key component of this as well. So if I was to again look at this and think, actually, what are the things do I need to kind of get started? Well, I might have a Scrum team, right? And then I might say, actually, you've got multiple Scrum teams dealing with multiple values, right? So that's my multiple Scrum teams. And I might have some Kanban teams supporting those teams or be a part of that basic framework. And then you've got the different types of people then engaging in that. So you've got in your Scrum teams, you've got your product owner, you've got a Scrum master, or they call it team coach, depending on which level you're kind of working at, whether it's Kanban or Scrum. And then you've got your people that are actually doing the development or the doing. And then you've got the people that kind of sat here, which is at agile release train level. So you've got a release train engineer, a product management, and a system architect, right? And I'll come to these roles shortly as well in a bit more detail. But in essence, these are all the people, those are all the practices. Now, you may, if you go to a client and they say, well, I'll work with an organization, say, actually, we don't need to do Kanban, right? We're happy just to do Scrum. That's okay. You don't have to have a Kanban team, but you have to select what's right for you at that moment in time. Design thinking, you might not do design thinking, right? You might not need to look at customer journey, empathy maps, and all those kind of great things, but it's in your toolbox. And the great thing is it gives you the opportunity then to integrate that into your delivery. So at this level, we're very much working a team. The level here, what we're working at is an art backlog. Now, if you think about a small or a agile team where you have a product owner, the team, and a scrum master doing some delivery, that's great as a contained team. But when you're working at scale, you need to do 3 things. You need to share your visibility of what you're doing across multiple teams. You also need to do prioritization. So the prioritization that you might do needs to be aligned to the wider audience as well. And the value delivery, so the delivery that's coming out of your basically team as well also needs to be shared and integrated into this larger solution. So this art backlog that you've got in the middle is pretty much that space. It's literally that big backlog, which then trickles down into the multiple Scrum teams that are doing their work. Yeah. You following me so far? Does that work? Cool. So in essence, what you do is you would do all your prioritization at a very high level. So if we think of a system where you've got multiple teams delivering this big, massive outcome, you'd have a product manager or a product management team will look at that and say, right, what are the massive big features that we want to deliver as a part of this project? And they use this approach called weighted shortest job first, right? So what is the biggest thing we can do that's going to give us the best business value in the shortest amount of time, right? That's basically the approach here. So that gets prioritized. And then what happens, those features get mapped onto different teams. So, one of the product owners go, actually, we'll work on that one. That's probably best suited to us. We've got some people that are skilled in this area. We'll work on this one, and so on and so forth. And we break that down. And what we do is we create a program increment on the back of that. So, right, during this time period here of a program increment, we will actually go away and actually do the delivery of that work. Now, a program increment could be anything between 8 to 12 weeks. Yeah, and we'll progress the way through. And then we go into what's called PI planning, which is the program increment planning. So Scrum teams will basically get together, usually in a big room like this. They'll have their multiple screens and stuff and say, right, these are the features that all the different teams are working on. And we'll go away and actually do the planning around this. There's going to be lots of dependencies. So it's understanding those dependencies. There's going to be lots of risks that we need to consider. There's got to be lots of conversations we need to have around potential knowledge gaps that we may have within the team. So it's all that basically plays out. And then we go away and we basically go ahead and actually plan our program increment. And that's the 12-week period that we're looking to plan. So all these people are involved as a part of those conversations. But what's really key, and what I really liked about SAFe compared to other methodologies we've used, that these people here, the business owners, are in the forefront of those conversations, right? So you find in a lot of projects where the sponsors puts the money on the table, right, guys, get out with it. That's it. Just show me the products at the end. That's all I'm interested in. But in essence, the business owners are actually part of that conversation. So a part of that planning, they'll come in, they'll ask the questions of the teams, they'll provide clarity where basically it's required. But the idea is that the teams have got a really intimate touch point with these people that are going to be consuming the product going forward. So then we've got also another piece to this is the architectural runway, which you see at the bottom here. So colleagues are here working technology. Again, you'll be very much part of those conversations where, as we are landing and delivering code or delivering value, is we also need to have the infrastructure to make sure it's basically aligned as well. So there's a great video online if you on YouTube actually. It's a Wallace and Gromit one. If you put architectural runway, it's great. And you got I think it's Wallace is basically going on the train, and Gromit's just basically putting the track down. And it's a great basically video because it basically shows that actually as we're delivering code, we just want to put the infrastructure just in time, just in place. Because if you put it in early, you may get outdated, and we may not leverage on the best technology at that moment in time. So the view is that what you want to do is create your architectural runway, and you want to do just enough for that program increment, but strategically think what you can do for the next one and make sure it's ready for the team to actually do the deployment. So that's pretty much in essence what the essential piece is. And then the bits above it is very much looking at that, but again, looking at it more from a portfolio level and how that kind of sits down. So it's looking at the financial aspects of it, setting guardrails, the budgets and everything else that sits around it. And what kind of overlaps all of this or underpins all of this is the bit at the bottom. So we still need to adopt a lean agile mindset, very key. Still look at the principles which follow those, and that kind of forms the culture of the project team going forward. And also the relentless kind of improvement that sits around this. So someone is working at, say, an RTE level. So an RTE is somebody who looks after multiple Scrum teams or Kanban teams. Is like the super Scrum master. Is he or she will basically make sure there's absolute relentless improvement that actually plays out throughout the whole sort of journey as well. So anything with where there's inefficiencies, teams are not quite performing in line with their sprint goals, for example, or there might be opportunities for coaching or as such, that individual basically makes sure this kind of hangs together in the most effective way. Any questions? No. done with those. So let's talk about the Lean Agile principles then. So the Lean Agile principles, there are basically 10 principles. The first one is, it says take an economic view, right? So is what can we do at a minimum so we're not really just spending lots of cash and lots of money just basically delivering because that's what we're being told to do. So take an economic view in terms of go back to the business value, go back to the plan and say this is still kind of stack up. Apply the systems thinking. So just look at it end to end, right? There might be times where we can reduce delays. Yeah, we have to focus on what what we can that's still within our control to do the right thing. Assume variability and preserve options. So that kind of talks more around don't be so rigid in your thinking. Yeah, be open-minded and be flexible enough to basically change your mind as we basically go through the course of actually doing the delivery. You will learn new things and discover new things as you actually go away and actually go away and do the coding and deliver the value. And then build increment with fast integrated learning cycles. So this is your typical plan it, do it, it's Scrum, right? Check it, is it right? Is it work? Great. And if we need to adjust it, brilliant. We'll adjust, but then we'll continue to do. So there's little, the cycles. And again, in reality, how that plays out is in a sprint. That's pretty much what you'll do there. Next one is base milestone and objective evaluations on working systems. So the milestones we put as a part of a greater plan. Now, naturally, there's a number of stakeholders that want to know when things are going to potentially land. They're going to be based on working systems. They can't be just, oh, we're still working on this, so it's kind of half baked or halfway through. So we need to agree that across the whole agile release train. Make that value flow without interruptions. This is a really key one that SAFe introduced as a part of this version was the whole concept of flow. How many times have you worked as a part of a Scrum team where sometimes the ticket just sits on the board for like 2 weeks and it's just there? And you think, how have nobody picked it up? Or, why is it still such a big, complex, big item? And why did we not see why it's taken so long? So the idea is just keep things flowing, right? So if it's a big ticket, even halfway through, break it down. It's clearly too big, right? Let's not let it just sit there. Apply cadence synchronized with cross-domain planning, right? So the whole idea this is just is predictability, right? So it's making sure that we've committed to a bit of work that we're going to do is in essence is the velocity, and we keep basically improving that to some degree, but it's predictable enough to make sure that not just with what we're doing, but across the piece, it kind of hangs together well as well. Number 8, I really like actually. So it's unlock the intrinsic motivation of knowledge workers. The people that are doing the doing know best, right? You find in some organizations where you have this person in the room just thinks he knows everything, or they think, because they've done a bit of coding themselves that, this is the way things should be, or they've done, a cloud migration, whatever that might be. But it's trust the people that are actually doing the work. Yeah, trust them to basically estimate it and tell us what what the real value of that work is going to be going forward. So and giving them the opportunity then to create mastery on the back of that as well, not just say actually this is great, but how can I help that individual become really good at what they're doing as well, so they get some job satisfaction out of it as well. And that leads in nicely to number 9, which is decentralized decision making, right? Empower the people that are doing the work, right? They know best, right? So in Scrum, the team makes the plan. And that's pretty much what it is. The team will dictate that big PI plan, and organize everything around value, right? So, it's all value-driven conversations. There's no silos around this. Bring people to a table. It's cross-functional teams that kind of work together to collectively deliver the outcome. Now, that's quite a lot in terms of principles, I think. But again, in organizations I've worked with, I've usually just done a quick kind of benchmark of these. So, right, how much of these behaviors or how much of these principles actually apply to the teams and the culture of the organization that we're working in at the moment? And sometimes it's not a fight you want to pick either, right? So it's kind of shaping that over time. You can't just walk in and say, well, these are the principles now, this is what we're going to be following, that's it. It's understanding, well, how do they currently work at the moment? What's going to work best for them? And what you find is that naturally, as we work in this direction, people will naturally gravitate towards this way of thinking. And when that happens, it's amazing because you create this kind of bubble, this program of work that people just work in this kind of way, and it just hangs together so beautifully. I won't go through these in any sort of detail, but in essence, the core values here is alignment, is very much around when you've got multiple teams working together, as I mentioned before, the key thing is getting people aligned on this one way of thinking. What really helps us doing that is the idea that we'll basically we are going to be doing PI planning together. Yeah. So we're all in one space. We've got this one plan and one wall is kind of working out in the direction we want to go. But people speak this common language. They understand basically where we're working. They adopt those values, as in the principles as well. And they understand the customer really, really well. And transparency is very much around the visualization of the work, right? We're really open in terms of what we're going to be going, what's going to be delaying us, where the blockers may potentially might be, what the risks might be, creating that safe environment for us to have those conversations. And having respect for people as well. Right? There's going to be times where there are disagreements. We may not basically fully agree that actually that might be a risk, or this might be is a core dependency to some of the delivery we want to do. But being basically a bit grown up enough to and professional enough to have those conversations. And then, like I said, mentioned relentless improvement, right? Doing anything we can to improve the way we are working, and putting people first around that as well. So these are some of the roles I mentioned. So Scrum Master, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with anyway in the room. A product owner is pretty much, again, I think you're quite familiar with that. And an agile team is a cross-functional team of people that are working. Where I guess SAFe is a bit different is you've got this other layer of people. So the release engineer, who I briefly mentioned, who's someone who basically orchestrates and owns that whole sort of piece end to end and understands that whole framework and how it kind of sits together and the adoption of that. And then you've also got someone else who's an SPC, which is a safe practice consultant. Again, works closely with the IT as well. Now, what you've also got here is a product management function, because you've got multiple Scrum teams with lots of product managers. You want to make sure there's a sync and there's an alignment. So again, you've got a product management team to make sure that as a chief product manager, like the Steve Jobs of the world, you might have multiple product managers with you that are working on different components of, for example, the iPhone, right? Someone might be working on the camera or the screen or the microphone or whatever that might be. But there needs to be some coordination and alignment. So that person there kind of sits at that function. And then you've got the architects, again, just making sure that the technical architecture, the technical runway is also aligned in terms of the direction where we're going in. And then the customers, right? So these could be your business owners or people that are consuming your product. Yeah. So we've got these in the heart of what we do as well. So there needs to be part of your value stream. So they understand the value that we're going to potentially get from these different components that we're delivering. So in essence, those are the key roles as a part of the framework. Now, if some of these roles are missing, what you find in times is some people play a dual role, right? That's absolutely fine as well. There are some roles I would say from experience, just don't compromise on, right? So you need a Scrum Master, yeah, you need a product owner to give that direction. That's a given. That's just fundamentals of Scrum. But what you might find is you might have one product owner supporting multiple Scrum teams, right? It doesn't work. Yeah. When you're trying to help three different Scrum teams plan their plan, it merely is practically impossible. And we had a challenge like this last year with a client that just thought it was a great idea just to streamline this. It doesn't work in practice. And that's when the model kind of breaks, right? That's when you kind of don't follow the values and principles. So these are the kind of, I'm going to call them anti-patterns that kind of typically play out. So things to kind of watch out for is things as such. And if you are working for one of these teams, it's quite exhaustive because you're trying to get, steer direction from somebody who's kind of split between three rooms, for example, with three different teams. It just doesn't work in practice. And business owners, bring them to the room. That's really, really key because it's validating exactly what you're doing. And the vision from the start, from the top is still valid. PR planning. Anyone been part of PR planning in the room? Yeah. So PR planning, typically a couple of days events, sometimes 3 days. It depends on how you do it. I've done it for a week, one organization, hybrid. It's quite exhaustive when you do it for a week, but it's probably my favorite part of the framework, to be fair, because this is at this moment in point, everyone gets an opportunity to kind of meet, get together, and Jared's working on a program with myself. We were working on a program together with a company in London, and don't know if you agree, but I think that was the event where I guess people look forward to, because that was a time where they did lots of planning, lots of work, came back, reviewed it, demoed it, showed it around, and we talked about it and celebrated it, right? And that connection, that deep connection you kind of create over time is absolutely priceless. And all it did, it basically evolved and created more positive energy to deliver more value. But at a high level, like I said, it's 8 to 12 weeks. The idea is that you plan 6 iterations or 6 sprints worth of work. And we do just enough, right? Planning, because in reality, you don't know how much that's naturally going to change, right? Otherwise, you might as well be a waterfall program. So I'd say is the definition of done for PR planning is get maybe 2 sprints worth of work planned, and if you get the first sprint nailed, great, and the second one at very high level. But the third and fourth, as long as you've got a sprint goal attached to each one and understand the risks and dependencies, we're in a very good place. So what's the reason why we do it? Well, we kind of touched upon this, right? So the key things are dependencies and risks. It's aligning the business goals with the program increment objectives as well. The landscape of the business might change, right? In 3 months' time, sometimes the market conditions have changed very, very drastically. We live in this VUCA world, right? It's volatile, uncertain. It's basically aligning our business goals again to what we're looking to achieve. So it's that constant calibration of that as well. But it's also matching demand to capacity as well, which is a key part of this. So now is a classic time. Loads of people are going to go away for summer, right? So we need to plan for that, for the the knowns, and then the unknowns, right? Where people potentially could be off as well. So managing those risks as well. But also the key thing really is fostering cross-team collaboration, right? So when you've got all those multiple people in the room, it's a great opportunity to go and speak to team A, team B, and team C about some of the things that you might be dependent on. Have the conversation with the technical architects, the solution architects, and guys, I understand you're going to be delivering this platform. How's it going to work in practice, right? What do we need? What are our requirements? This is our sprint goal. Can you support that? Is it going to work? So it's having those conversations. But really, the key thing is establishing that personal relationship by basically which basically what it enables. Because we've all worked in those teams, and I worked in larger organizations where the platform team will deliver the platform. You've probably never met the platform team. You probably send them an email or request going, could you get this server ready for me? But now that you've met the person and you're better acquainted, he's more likely to deliver what you're looking for and understands the why and your urgency and the dependency why it sits on that team, because you can now see this on a board than just a request coming through his door, right? Because you're just another request. And that's the power of these sessions. So typically, like I said, it's done face to face, but you can also do it virtually as well using Miro or Miro. The way it kind of plays out, usually the agenda is the chief product owner will basically set the vision in terms of what we're looking to deliver in the next 12 weeks and beyond. And then all these epics and features get assigned to different teams, and they'll go away and look at those and unbox those. There's a lot of prep that happens before, to be fair, where the teams already pretty much know what they're going to be working on. But in essence, they want to start discovering some of those pieces as well. So the teams then go out to breakout sessions. They'll go away and do the planning. They'll come back and they'll do basically what's called like a draft plan review, right? So we just want to see what the current thinking is based on the features that you've got, based on what you know now, based on the objectives of the business in terms of what we're looking to do and the PI objectives. What do you think the direction we need to go in? So each team will get 5 to 10 minutes to present their plan in front of the audience, and people will get an understanding of what each team is doing, and hopefully ask lots of questions. And as we kind of progressively go through, we populate what's called a program increment board, which I'll show you an example shortly. But in essence, what you'll find is lots of teams planning all their different stories and features. There are regular touch points during the day. So there's a PO sync, a product owner sync, to make sure we're aligned. There's a Scrum Master sync. What do we call that? It's called it now. Scrum of Scrums. There you go. SOS. So we did a Scrum of Scrums. So twice in the day, in the morning and in the afternoon, we'll do like a Scrum of Scrums to make sure that the Scrum Masters are also aligned in terms of the direction they're going, but also providing any support we can. That's really important. There might be things that Scrum Masters are struggling with, or there might be technology's got in the way, the whiteboard's not working, or this marker's not quite effective, or the post-its are not sticking, whatever that might be, is to alleviate some of those challenges straight away as well. So it's supporting the teams in the best effective way to basically deliver the outcomes they're looking for of the PR planning. So again, we do loads of sort of connects, and then on the last day, we'll do a review of the full program board. We'll do a risk and dependencies walkthrough, like a RAID review, and then we'll take a confidence vote, right? To say, well, collectively, imagine this with like 100 and something people in the room, how confident are we that we're good to go with this? And we need to get majority 90 plus, if not more, % confidence that we've actually solved this plan. Now, I've been in sessions. I remember about 5 years ago, I was with when I was with HSBC, and it was specifically with First Direct, and we did the planning for like 3 days. And there's one team which has not signed up to this at all, and they're literally just giving. So the confidence rate is 5, right? So if everyone sees a 5, that's great. And they kept going 2, right. So what's gone on here, right? Why are you guys 2? And at that time, we had to just make a decision. We had to step down for literally half an hour to understand and unbox why that team was not willing to commit to that plan. And the ask was because some of the platforms and some of the APIs that were looking to consume by the other teams, they were quite clear and said, look, we haven't got the resources to support this. Now, the great thing is, you know that now, right? Imagine you go ahead and you plan it, right? And then in 2 weeks' time or 3 weeks' time, they can't deliver, right? So it told me 2 things. A thing is, it's great to know what the blocker is. We can alleviate it or find a workaround. But this is a trusted environment. They felt confident enough and also, comfortable to have those conversations now in front of business owners and senior stakeholders that potentially they may not have done, right? Which is great. So it means we're moving in the right direction. So again, we were said, great, what can we do now to make you more confident? Right, we need 2 more people. How do we get that? Great. So what else do you need? Oh, we need a MuleSoft update. Great. Okay, how do we do that? Within half an hour, we resolved this, and there were a confidence 4. This is good, right? That's where we need to be. So we do not go ahead with a plan until everybody's confident in the room. And then very lastly, we do a very quick retro, right? So the retrospective is very much as people walk out, we just do like a retro. So the teams will basically collect their feedback. What are the key, points that they'd like to raise for the PR planning session? And it could be stuff like there wasn't enough coffee in the morning, or the water ran out. It could be anything really trivial from actually, I couldn't get hold of that team. They were just constantly busy or whatever that might be. And we collect this feedback throughout the days. So day 1, we look at it, we reflect on it, we make the adjustments. Day 2, we look at it again. And day 3, hopefully, we're in a space where everyone's able to do what they need to do. And very finally, this is roughly what a program board looks like, but it doesn't. It's a lot more busier than that. But just to kind of show, these are all the different teams on the left. And these are all the sprints across the top. But we also put milestones on there as well. So if there are key milestones that we need to plan and look for, we also put those, and these are like industry milestones that we have to meet. At least people have got sight of those. But in short, what we've got is, for example, all these teams will put their high level stories on the board. And what those red lines are dependencies. So you can see there very quickly, there's lots of dependencies and therefore risks as well that are associated with those as well. And that is what people sign up to for the next 12 weeks. That is what they're basically expressing their confidence with, is can we deliver to that plan? And as the 3 or 4 days evolve, you'll see this plan get busier and busier and busier. And we've got some great ones we've done on Miro and Mural. And again, we review these at the end of each sprint, right? So every week we have an art sync session. So Scrum Masters, product owners, and RT will get together in a room and say, right, guys, how are we progressing against sprint 1 goal? How are we progressing against sprint 2 goals, right? What are the retro feedback? What does that look like? Are we still in line with business objectives? There's lots of reviews and touch points. So this is not something like we do a 12-week plan and we go away and we don't see each other again. The idea is that every week there are sync sessions that are put in place for us to then review against what we've committed to. And it's fine if things change, because then dependencies might change, but then they're manageable. We can understand what they are and they're communicated, and that's very key as well. And what we do is also part of the sessions is we have demo sessions. So teams will come together. They'll do a demo every couple of weeks or every 4 weeks as well. So again, business stakeholders can understand the value that's been delivered, and then you kind of progress on and move forward from there. Any questions? No. And this is just some of the pictures from the PI planning we did. Can you find Jared? Jared, can you see? You're looking for yourself. Yeah. Well, I wasn't going to say. Cool. Thank you, guys.